Yandy never saw it coming. One minute, she was defending her marriage like a lioness, and the next, everything around her crumbled with one devastating word. Confirmed. That single piece of paper, that cold scientific truth, shattered her world in ways no reality show storyline ever could. The DNA test results weren't just numbers, they were betrayal printed in bold. For months, rumors had swirled, whispers turning into accusations. But Yandy stood by Mendeecees with every ounce of strength she had. She clapped back at blogs, blocked fans who dared to question her man, and smiled through interviews like everything was picture perfect. But behind the scenes, a storm had been brewing. And now, the thunder had finally struck. In a twist, no one saw coming, the results leaked before Yandy even got to see them herself. Fans are shocked. The internet exploded. And Mendeecees? He wasn't saying much, which only made things worse. As the cameras started rolling and family members began to choose sides, it was clear this wasn't just about a child. It was about truth, loyalty, and public humiliation. And now, Yandy stands alone in the eye of a media hurricane, shattered, betrayed, and demanding answers. Yandy had always believed that loyalty was the foundation of her world. No matter how much social media twisted the truth or how reality TV edited her image, she stood firm beside Mendeecees. Through prison time, parenting struggles, and public shade from castmates, she remained the picture of a ride-or-die partner. But what she didn't see coming, what no amount of loyalty could protect her from, was a quiet betrayal that had been growing in silence. The kind that isn't loud or messy at first, the kind that unfolds behind closed doors, buried under secrets and half-truths. And it all began with a phone call she never expected to receive. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Yandy sat alone in her living room, scrolling through messages when her phone rang. It was her lawyer. Her heart skipped, not out of fear, but from the gut feeling she always had when something wasn't right. She answered, expecting something minor. Instead, she heard the words that would flip her entire world upside down. "We got the DNA results," her lawyer said, his voice calm but heavy. Yandy's breath caught in her throat. She had almost forgotten the test was even submitted. A young woman had come forward months earlier, claiming Mendeecees was the father of her child. Yandy hadn't believed it, not for a second. The timeline didn't match. The story felt shaky, and honestly, she thought it was just another clout-chasing scandal. Mendeecees had denied it too, swearing on everything that the accusations were baseless. But now, with one sentence, the doubt she had buried deep came crashing back to the surface. "The child is his," the lawyer confirmed. The words, slicing through the silence like a blade. Yandy froze. Her hand trembled as she held the phone, her eyes locked on the wall across from her, but seeing nothing at all. Everything felt like a blur. The furniture, the soft hum of the rain outside, even her own heartbeat. She was staring into a void that she couldn't process yet. When she finally found her voice, it cracked. "You're sure?" 99.9%, he replied. "There's no question." The tears didn't come right away. Yandy was too stunned for that. Her brain was still catching up with her reality. Her trust, her pride, her entire sense of control had just been broken in silence. And the man she defended time and time again, the man she went to war for on, and off-screen was suddenly at the center of her deepest humiliation. She ended the call, dropped the phone onto the couch, and sat in silence. Everything inside her wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand answers. But instead, she stared ahead, almost numb. Because it wasn't just about Mendeecees, it was about the lie, the public facade, the blind faith, the child whose name she didn't even know, and the fact that everyone would find out before she had the chance to process it herself. As the news began to spread, it became clear the leak didn't come from her side. Within hours, gossip pages were posting screenshots of unverified lab reports. Twitter threads were exploding with theories and timelines. Even other reality stars started weighing in. And Mendeecees? He went silent. No post, no story, not even a text. Yandy couldn't stay quiet. Not this time. Later that night, cameras were already rolling as she sat down with producers. Her face was tight with emotion, her words measured but sharp. "I feel like a fool," she said, her voice low but strong. I defended him when everyone told me not to. I shut people down. And now I look stupid, and he's hiding. Backstage, Mendeecees was pacing. He had just seen the leaks online, and his phone was blowing up. Friends, castmates, even family members were calling. Some to offer support, most to ask questions. But he didn't answer anyone. He knew the truth, and he knew he couldn't run from it anymore. What he hadn't expected was the speed. The backlash. And most of all, the pain in Yandy's voice when she finally confronted him face to face. "Did you know?" she asked, her arms crossed tightly, tears forming but refusing to fall. Mendeecees sighed, not out of frustration, but guilt. "I wasn't sure," he admitted. "I didn't want to bring you into it until I knew." Yandy shook her head slowly. "So, you let me walk around defending you, looking crazy, while you kept this to yourself?" He stepped closer, trying to explain. "I didn't want to hurt you." "You already did," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The room fell into silence, the tension thick and unspoken. Even the producers didn't dare interrupt. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every raw second of the moment that could never be undone. But this wasn't the end of the conversation. It was just the beginning, because what Yandy didn't know yet was that there was more. The DNA test may have confirmed the child, but it didn't explain how deep the deception went, or who else had known about it before her. And that revelation was only moments away. As Yandy sat there, still processing Mendeecees' confession, a producer handed her a tablet. "You're gonna want to see this," he said cautiously. Her eyes narrowed. She wasn't sure if she was ready for more, but something inside her told her this wasn't just about betrayal, it was about exposure. She tapped the screen, and the video began to play. It was a behind-the-scenes clip, recorded weeks earlier during a cast event Yandy hadn't attended. In the footage, Mendeecees was seen talking in hushed tones to a mutual acquaintance, a friend Yandy thought she could trust. The audio was slightly muffled, but clear enough to catch the part that made her stomach twist. "Yeah, I've been sending money for the baby," Mendeecees admitted. "I just didn't want to bring Yandy into it until I was sure. She's got enough on her plate already," the clip ended. Yandy didn't say a word. She didn't flinch, but the fire behind her eyes was unmistakable. She turned to the producer and said flatly, "Run the cameras. I want it all on record." A few minutes later, she walked into the main set where Mendeecees was already mic'd up, clearly unaware of what she had just seen. She didn't wait for the director's cue. "So not only did you lie," Yandy began, her voice calm but icy, "but you were taking care of this baby behind my back?" Mendeecees opened his mouth, but she held up her hand. "Don't lie to me again. Not on camera. Not after I just saw the clip." Mendeecees closed his eyes briefly, exhaling deeply. "I wasn't trying to hide it. I just didn't want to believe it myself. I didn't want to hurt you more than I already had." "Too late," she said, folding her arms. "And now the world knows before I even had the chance to understand it myself." The set went silent again, the tension so thick it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Even the crew members looked shaken, watching as the couple once considered the most solid in reality. TV began to crumble in front of the cameras. Meanwhile, social media was in a frenzy. Fans were shocked. Clips from the confrontation leaked within hours. Hashtags like Anchi Yandy betrayed and Nichi Mendeecees exposed were trending. People took sides. Some defended Mendeecees, saying he was trying to protect her. Others weren't buying it. But the drama didn't stop with fans. Two of Yandy's closest friends, who had been suspicious of Mendeecees for months, decided it was time to speak out. One of them, Keisha, who had been quiet during filming, pulled Yandy aside privately. "Listen," Keisha said, "I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to cause problems. But girl, I saw him at that restaurant with that woman. I thought maybe it was work-related. But now, with all this..." Yandy's face was unreadable. She nodded slowly. "How long ago?" "Back in February." "That's when she said the baby was conceived," Yandy whispered. Her heart sank even deeper. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, and none of them were comforting. Later that evening, Yandy sat in her dressing room, alone with her thoughts. Cameras had been turned off for the night, but the emotional chaos still burned inside her. Her phone buzzed again. It was her sister calling. Another buzz. A text from her mother. Another buzz. A producer checking in. She didn't respond to any of it. Instead, she opened her notes app and began typing. Raw, unfiltered thoughts. Things she had never said aloud. Ever said aloud. I defended him when no one else would. I believed him when everyone warned me. Now I'm the one who looks like a fool. I don't care what the fans think. I care that my own heart can't tell the difference between love and lies anymore. Sunny for to fights. The next day, production resumed. But something in Yandy had shifted. Her walls were up, her energy guarded. Mendeecees approached her before filming began, hoping for a chance to speak without cameras. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. She glanced at him, then at the camera crew setting up. "No," she said. "You had your chance to be honest. Now, everyone gets to watch what happens next, just like I had to watch you lie." It was a brutal response, but it was honest. And for the first time in weeks, Yandy felt like she was reclaiming a sliver of power. As filming continued, the storyline began to unfold in ways the network hadn't even expected. Producers scrambled to keep up with the new twists. They reached out to the woman who claimed Mendeecees was the father. She refused to appear on camera, but her statement was sent in anonymously. "I never meant to hurt anyone," the message read. "I just wanted the truth. He didn't deny the baby in private. He just wanted to keep it out of the spotlight. I understand why Yandy's hurt. She has every right to be." The letter was read aloud during the next filming session, and Yandy sat stone-faced as the words echoed through the room. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She simply nodded. "Finally," she said, "some honesty." But the emotional damage had already been done. The house was divided. Friends chose sides. Mendeecees stood alone in most scenes now, visibly, shaken, trying to explain his actions to castmates who had once backed him without question. "You should have told her," one of the castmates said to him bluntly. "You don't get to choose when people find out the truth. That's not how love works." And yet, through it all, Yandy never lost her composure. Even in pain, she remained poised. A woman who had been shattered, yes, but not destroyed. What no one knew was that she was preparing for one final reveal, something that would flip the entire narrative once again, something Mendeecees hadn't even seen coming. And that final truth was just around the corner. The days following the confrontation were a blur of filming, phone calls, and headlines. Everyone wanted a piece of the drama. Yandy was the center of it all, and yet she remained silent, strategic. Not a single post, not a single interview. Her silence only fueled more speculation. People thought she was done, broken, too embarrassed to speak up again. But what they didn't know was that Yandy wasn't hiding. She was planning. Behind the scenes, she had already hired a private investigator, someone who had been digging deeper into Mendeecees' timeline, his finances, his communications. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she wanted clarity. She needed to know if this was truly just one moment of weakness, or if it was part of a much larger web of lies. While she waited for the report, another storm began brewing. Word got out that Mendeecees' ex had been contacted by producers for a possible cameo. This was the woman who, years ago, had made Yandy's life a nightmare on social media. She hadn't been part of the show in a while, but now she was back in the picture. Not just because of the baby, because of old wounds that never fully healed, and when she arrived on set, the energy shifted immediately. Yandy kept her cool, but everyone around her could feel the tension. Even the crew adjusted their cameras, hoping to catch every second of what they knew could become the most explosive scene yet. The two women sat across from each other in a private lounge. No producers, no interruptions, just the truth. "You still think you won?" the ex said with a cold smile. "But I've been knowing the truth for months." Yandy looked her dead in the eye. "Congrats on knowing. Must be nice to have the luxury of watching my life blow up while you sit back and sip tea." The ex shrugged. "I didn't tell you, because I knew he wouldn't. And I wanted to see if you'd ever stop pretending you had the perfect man." Yandy laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the pain had reached that level of absurdity where laughing was the only thing left. "You think I was pretending?" she asked. "I believed him. That's the difference between you and me." The conversation was raw, brutal, and unfiltered. And it was exactly what Yandy needed. Because in that moment, something clicked. She realized that the betrayal wasn't just personal, it had been public, weaponized and allowed to grow because people had been too afraid to tell her the truth. Later that night, she received the final report from the investigator. There were messages, bank statements, surveillance footage, nothing illegal, but plenty unethical. Private meetings, hotel receipts, payments sent through burner accounts. Things Mendeecees had denied for months now sat clearly documented in front of her. The next day, she walked onto set with the folder in hand. She didn't say a word. She placed it in front of Mendeecees during a scheduled shoot. His eyes locked onto it immediately, and his entire body stiffened. "What is this?" he asked. "Open it," Yandy replied. He did, page by page. And with each one, his expression shifted from confusion to regret to devastation, because he knew there was no more hiding. Not from her, not from the cameras, not from the audience who had watched him deny, deflect, and dodge every tough question. "You followed me?" he asked finally, his voice low. "I searched for the truth," she said, "because you wouldn't give it to me." He leaned back in his seat, silent. The room was tense. Even the producers didn't know what to say. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Then, Yandy spoke again. "This isn't about the baby. It's about the disrespect, the secrecy, the fact that you let me bleed in silence while you cleaned up your mess behind my back. I was trying to protect you," he said weakly. "No, you were trying to protect your image," she shot back. "But now everybody sees the real you." And she walked off. The episode that aired later showed only fragments of what truly happened, but it was enough. Fans were left stunned. The support for Yandy poured in from everywhere. Celebrities, influencers, even former castmates posted messages of solidarity. Hashtags like "Numb Justice for Yandy" and "Betrayed but Strong" flooded timelines. Mendeecees, on the other hand, was left in damage control mode. He released a statement trying to explain, trying to apologize. But for many viewers, it was too little, too late. What no one saw coming, though, was the fallout behind the scenes. The network, seeing the massive response from viewers, began pushing for a special reunion episode focused solely on this storyline. They offered Yandy the chance to tell her story in full. No interruptions, no edits, just her version of events. At first, she declined, but then she changed her mind because she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every woman who had been lied to in the name of protection. Every woman who had been told to stay silent for the sake of someone else's reputation. Every woman who had trusted too much. And when she returned to set for that special episode, she was no longer the shattered woman from earlier. She was composed, clear, and determined. And she was about to reveal one more truth that would leave the entire cast, especially Mendeecees, absolutely speechless. As the reunion special began, the atmosphere in the studio was nothing short of electric. The lights were dimmed, the set redesigned to resemble something more intimate, less like a TV show, and more like a closed-room confession. The air was thick with anticipation. The audience, mostly quiet, clutched their phones tightly, recording every breath, every glance, every tremble. Yandy walked in alone. No glam team, no entourage, just her and the quiet strength she had built from the wreckage of public humiliation. Her outfit was elegant but understated, all black with a soft shimmer that caught the light just enough to make her presence feel powerful without screaming for attention. Her face was calm, unreadable, controlled. She sat down across from the host, who offered a gentle nod. "Thank you for being here, Yandy." She returned the nod. "I almost didn't come." "But you did," he said. "And we're grateful for that, because a lot of people have been watching, and they've seen your pain, your silence, and your strength." Yandy took a deep breath. "I'm not here to bash him. I'm not here to relive every moment of betrayal. I'm here because I finally learned something that changed everything." The host leaned in, curious. "Something new?" "Yes," she said. "Something I found out after the last shoot. Something that Mendeecees never told me, not just about the baby, but about what happened before all of this even started." And with that, she pulled out a folded paper from her jacket. She handed it to the host, who opened it slowly. As his eyes scanned the page, his face shifted from intrigue to visible shock. "This is a lease," he said. "Correct," Yandy replied, "for an apartment he rented, under a fake name. Signed the lease while he was still living in our home." While I was taking care of everything, holding our family down, he was playing house somewhere else. The crowd gasped. A few people audibly whispered, "Wow," under their breath. And who was he living with? The host asked carefully. Yandy hesitated, not for drama, but because even now, it stung. The mother of the child. They weren't just hooking up. They were living together, like a real family, behind my back. This revelation sent shockwaves across the internet. Within minutes of airing, fans were floored. This wasn't just about a one-night mistake. It was about a second life, a secret reality that ran parallel to the one Yandy had fought to keep together for years. The host, clearly trying to maintain composure, asked, "Why reveal this now?" "Because I'm done protecting someone who never protected me," Yandy said. "I'm done letting the world think I was just a victim of a single lie. This was systematic, calculated, and I refuse to let it define my worth." Cut to backstage. Mendeecees was watching on a monitor, frozen. He hadn't known the lease had been found. He hadn't expected her to bring that final piece of truth into the public space. For the first time during the entire saga, his composure cracked. His voice trembled as he said quietly to a producer, "She wasn't supposed to find that, but she had." And now the world knew. After the clip aired, Yandy continued her sit-down, speaking directly to the camera this time. "For every woman watching this who's ever been told she's crazy, paranoid, too emotional, this is for you. Trust your intuition, protect your peace, and never ever let loyalty become your prison." Tears welled up in the eyes of audience members. Some clapped, some sat silently in awe. Then the host asked the one question everyone had been waiting for. "Do you still love him?" Yandy didn't answer immediately. She stared into the distance for a long moment before responding softly. "I love who I thought he was." The studio went silent. "But that man doesn't exist anymore," she added, "and maybe he never did." It was the kind of honesty that doesn't just shake a relationship, it shakes a culture. And when the reunion special ended, there were no dramatic exits, no screaming matches. Just Yandy walking out alone again, this time not shattered, not embarrassed, but free. As she left the studio, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mendeecees. "I'm sorry. For real this time." "For all of it?" She stared at the screen for a moment, then locked it without replying. Outside, the night was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in a long time. Yandy was too. The next morning, headlines exploded across every entertainment blog, gossip site, and Instagram tea page. Phrases like "Yandy's final word," "the second apartment scandal," and "reunion bombshell leaves fans speechless" dominated the trending tabs. Screenshots of the lease, photos of Yandy's calm expression as she exposed the final lie, and backstage footage of Mendeecees' shaken reaction were everywhere. Fans weren't just reacting, they were rallying behind her. Comment sections were flooded with support. She handled it like a queen. This wasn't drama. This was survival. He had a whole second life and still played victim. Yandy deserved better. Celebrities chimed in too. Several former Love and Hip Hop cast members posted stories applauding Yandy for her composure and her strength. One wrote, "This is how you boss up after being betrayed. No yelling, no tears, just truth." But while the world was praising her, Yandy remained quiet again. This time, her silence wasn't because she was processing pain. It was because she was building something new. What most people didn't know was that shortly after the reunion, special aired, Yandy met privately with the network executives, not just to discuss her future on the show, but to renegotiate the terms of her presence entirely. She had leverage now, power, and she knew it. "I'm not interested in continuing as a storyline," she told them. "If I'm going to be involved, I want creative control. I want my own spin-off, and I want it to be about women rebuilding after public betrayal." They didn't even hesitate. The numbers from the reunion special were off the charts. The engagement, the press, the rerun views. All of it proved that the audience wasn't just invested in Yandy's pain. They were inspired by her strength. The network greenlit her series within a week. Working title, Rebuilt. And guess who wasn't invited? To be a part of it. Mendeecees? His fallout continued. Sponsors pulled back. His public statements weren't landing. He attempted to schedule an on-camera apology sit-down, but it was denied. Not by the producers, but by Yandy. "You don't get to use my truth as your redemption arc," she said simply. In the pilot episode of Rebuilt, Yandy sat with two other women who had experienced public betrayal. No cameras trying to twist the narrative, no producers staging fake drama, just real, raw conversation about healing, self-respect, and finding peace after chaos. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Mendeecees was trying to reach her, calling, texting, sending flowers, even writing letters. But Yandy never responded directly. She had said everything that needed to be said in front of the world. And what she didn't say, she had left for herself. One letter in particular stood out, though. Not because of what it said, but because of how it ended. "I see now what I lost, and it's not just you, it's the woman you became without me." Yandy read it once, folded it up, and tucked it away in a drawer. Not as a keepsake, but as a reminder, because this chapter of her life wasn't about being heartbroken anymore. It was about being reborn. In one of the final scenes of the new show, she's seen lighting a candle by her window, standing alone in her apartment, looking out over the city skyline. There's no music, no voiceover, just her, in silence, reclaiming her space. It was symbolic, because in the same way the scandal started with a secret test result, it ended with her holding the flame. Not Mendeecees, not the network, not the audience, just her. A woman betrayed, a woman broken, and then a woman rebuilt. Weeks after the premiere of Rebuilt, Yandy's life looked completely different, but not in the way reality TV usually paints redemption. There were no luxury revenge trips, no over-the-top clapbacks. Instead, there was depth, purpose, clarity, and for the first time in a long time, quiet. The show had become a massive success, not just in ratings, but in cultural impact. Women from all over the world were sharing their own stories in response. Every episode sparked conversations about trust, betrayal, healing, and boundaries. And through it all, Yandy remained grounded, vulnerable, but unapologetically in control. But just as things began to settle, the producers received a surprising message. Mendeecees had requested to appear on the final episode of the season. Not for drama, not for redemption, but to return something that Yandy didn't even know he'd kept. At first, she was hesitant. She didn't want to give him another platform, especially not one she had built on her own strength. But after some thought, and a few long talks with her inner circle, she agreed. "I'll let him speak," she said. "But he doesn't get the last word." "I do." The finale was filmed in a neutral studio space. No flashy backdrops, no audience, just two chairs, a dim light, and the same silence that had followed them since their last on-camera moment. Mendeecees walked in first, holding a small box. His expression was different, less defensive, more humbled. He sat down quietly, waited. Yandy entered, her posture tall, her face unreadable. She didn't speak first. She didn't need to. He opened the box and slid it across the table. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet. "You gave me this when I got out," he said softly. "You said it was to remind me that I was never alone. But I didn't honor that. I didn't deserve it. And I don't want to keep anything from you that came from love I didn't respect." Yandy looked at the bracelet. Her fingers didn't move toward it. "What do you want me to do with that?" she asked. "Whatever you need," he replied. "If it helps to burn it, toss it, keep it, whatever gives you peace." She nodded slowly, then closed the box. "Thank you," she said, "but I don't need it back. I've already taken everything I gave to you and poured it back into me." The cameras didn't need to zoom in. The moment spoke for itself. Mendeecees lowered his gaze. "I know I hurt you. I don't expect forgiveness. But I do want you to know you were the best part of my life. And losing you, it forced me to finally meet the real me." Yandy didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just nodded once. "Then take care of that version of yourself," she said, "because this version of me isn't looking back anymore." And just like that, the final scene ended. Not with closure in the traditional sense, but with something more powerful. Control.peace.evolution. As the screen faded to black, a quote appeared in white text. "The strongest women are not those who never cry, but those who choose to rise again with dry eyes." And with that, Rebuilt closed its first season with more than just a story of betrayal. It became a testament to what happens when a woman refuses to let pain define her, and instead lets it refine her. Viewers were left with chills. And Yandy, she walked out of the studio into the daylight, head high, heart intact, and future. Fully her own. The aftermath of the finale rippled far beyond what the producers expected. Rebuilt wasn't just trending anymore, it was shifting conversations across morning shows, podcasts, and panels. Everywhere from Black-owned blogs to national daytime TV was discussing the quiet power of how Yandy closed her chapter. And for the first time in reality TV history, a woman's silence, poise, and restraint caused more shock than a screaming match ever could. The network didn't wait long. Within a week, they greenlit Rebuilt, Season 2. This time, it wouldn't be about Yandy's pain. It would be about other women. She would serve as the anchor, the listener, the mentor, and she would help them navigate their own public and private heartbreaks. The story had evolved. Yandy wasn't just a cast member anymore. She was the voice. But just as the excitement for Season 2 built up, another twist surfaced. And this time, it wasn't from Mendeecees. Someone from his inner circle had started. Talking, a former friend, anonymous in the press but confirmed by producers, claimed there was more. That Mendeecees hadn't just been living a double life emotionally, but financially. Private investments, hidden money, properties bought in, other names. Things that had been concealed even from his own legal team. When Yandy got wind of the story, her first instinct wasn't shock. It was exhaustion. "I'm not surprised anymore," she said in an off-camera moment, recorded for a special featurette. When someone shows you who they are over and over again, you stop asking why. You start asking what you need to protect. But fans weren't done asking questions. The story snowballed. Media outlets dug deeper. The quiet leak turned into a full-on investigation. Yandy's name was dragged into headlines she wanted no part of. They weren't questioning her integrity, but her proximity. That's when she decided to take the narrative back again. She went live. Not for clout, not for content, but for clarity. "I know y'all are hearing things," she began. "And I know my name is getting tied to mess I didn't ask for. So let me be clear. I don't care what he did with his money. I'm not his business partner. I'm not his shield. I'm not his excuse." The internet applauded. Again, but privately, Yandy was tired. The weight of being the strong one, the poised one, the strategic one, it came with cracks. She wasn't breaking, but she was bending. So she did something unexpected. She left. Not permanently, but enough to pause everything. No filming, no social media, no appearances. She boarded a flight with her kids and disappeared to a small coastal village where no one knew her name, where there were no camera crews, where the only thing trending was the tide. She spent weeks there, healing, thinking, journaling, and when she came back with a message. "It's not just about rebuilding after a man," she said in a short video posted to her page. "It's about rebuilding after the world breaks you. After it tells you to be strong, then punishes you when you are. After it wants your tears, then mocks your healing." The video went viral instantly. Not because it was dramatic, not because it was edited, but because it was real. And from that video, a new movement began. Rebuilt became more than a show. It became a space, a brand, a community. Women wrote in, submitted stories, hosted watch parties. Yandy launched wellness retreats, partnered with therapists, created content that wasn't just entertainment, it was emotional survival. And in the background, Mendeecees faded into silence. No more statements, no more posts. He had said enough. And now, the world wasn't listening to him. They were listening to her. Yandy's evolution was no longer about healing from betrayal. It was about becoming something unbreakable, not perfect, not polished, but powerful. And as the next season of Rebuilt began filming, Yandy stood behind the scenes, not as a woman trying to fix what a man broke, but as a woman who built something bigger than all of it. After everything Yandy endured, every headline, every betrayal, every tear she refused to let fall on camera, she didn't just survive, she transformed. She turned her silence into strength, her pain into power, and her story into a blueprint for anyone who's ever been broken by someone they once trusted. What started with a DNA test became a full unraveling of lies, exposing not just a man's truth, but the reality of what it means to rebuild in public view. Yandy didn't clap back with bitterness. She didn't need to. Her composure, her decisions, her evolution spoke louder than any outburst ever could. Through Rebuilt, she created space not just for herself, but for countless women watching who saw their own reflection in her restraint. She taught us that closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's choosing yourself and walking forward, even when the world expects you to fall apart. This wasn't just another reality TV scandal. This was a movement, a moment, and the beginning of something far greater than drama. And now we turn to you, the viewers, the witnesses, the ones who rode this emotional roller coaster from start to finish. What do you think? Was Yandy right to walk away with grace instead of vengeance? Do you believe Mendeecees truly regrets what he lost? Or is it too little, too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which moment hit you the hardest and what you would have done in her shoes. And if you felt every twist, every betrayal, every silent tear, then hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because more truth is coming. This isn't just storytelling. This is healing in real time. Because Yandy may be done with her past, but her future has just begun.